The crash landing, the emergency beacon pierced through the silence of the night like a desperate cry for help. Captain Jake Morrison had been enjoying his first real vacation in 3 years when the distress signal reached his private communication device. He was supposed to be fishing on the remote lakes of New Terra, not responding to rescue calls. But something about the signal pattern made him pause. It wasn't human standard protocol. The coordinates led him to a crash site deep in the Mole, Whispering Woods, where ancient trees created a natural cathedral of shadows and moonlight. Jake's military training kicked in as he approached the wreckage. The ship was unlike anything he'd seen before. Sleek, organic curves that seemed to grow from the earth itself, its hull shimmering with an otherworldly blue-green glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. Steam rose from the twisted metal, and Jake could smell something sweet and metallic in the air. His scanner detected one life sign, weak but stable. As he climbed through the breach in the ship's side, emergency lighting flickered on, responding to his presence in ways that defied explanation. The interior was a maze of crystalline formations and flowing surfaces that seemed more grown than built. He found her in what appeared to be the ship's bridge, trapped beneath a fallen beam. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow but steady. At first glance, she looked human, tall, graceful, with silver hair that seemed to catch and hold light. But as Jake knelt beside her, he noticed the differences. Her skin had a subtle luminescence, like starlight captured beneath the surface. Her ears were slightly pointed, and her features held an otherworldly perfection that made his breath catch. "Hey," he called softly, checking for injuries. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that shifted between deep violet and silver. For a moment, she stared at him with such intensity that Jake felt like she was looking directly into his soul. Then confusion clouded her features, and she tried to sit up. "Easy," Jake said, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. "You've been in a crash. I'm here to help." The moment his skin made contact with hers, something extraordinary happened. The ship's emergency systems suddenly came online, displays lighting up with information in languages he couldn't read. The air grew warmer, and the metallic smell was replaced by something that reminded him of a spring morning. Even his scanner began working with perfect accuracy, something it hadn't done in months, but it was her reaction that truly caught his attention. Instead of relaxing into his touch like a human would, she went completely still. Her eyes widened, and her breathing changed from shallow and pained to deep and controlled. It was as if his contact had activated something within her, bringing her systems online just like the ship around them. "You're human," she whispered, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated in his chest. "I can feel your warmth, your electrical patterns. But you're not afraid of me." Jake helped her into a sitting position, noting how her movements became more fluid and coordinated with each passing second. "Should I be afraid of you?" She studied his face with those shifting eyes, and Jake saw something there that made his heart tighten, loneliness so profound it seemed to echo in the space between them. "Most beings are," she said quietly, "when they discover what I am." The ship's lights brightened around them, and Jake realized that whatever this woman was, she was connected to the vessel in ways that went beyond simple technology. She wasn't just a passenger or pilot. She was part of the ship itself, or perhaps it was part of her. The thought should have been terrifying, but instead, Jake found himself fascinated by the mystery she represented. As he prepared to help her stand, Jake made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Whatever she was, whatever secrets she carried, he was going to help her. Because in those violet silver eyes, he saw something that transcended species and technology. He saw someone who desperately needed what he had always been good at providing: simple human compassion. Revelations in the woods supporting her weight as they moved through the crashed ship. Jake noticed how the alien woman's presence affected everything around them. Plants outside the wreckage began to glow softly and small. Creatures that should have been asleep emerged from their hiding places, drawn by some invisible force. His military-grade equipment, which had been functioning normally for years, began displaying readings that made no sense. "What's your name?" he asked as they cleared the wreckage and stepped onto the forest floor. "Zara," she replied, her voice growing stronger with each step. "And I must warn you, Captain Morrison, my presence here is not accidental. I was being hunted." Jake stopped walking. "How do you know my name? And hunted by whom?" "Zara's silver." Hair caught the moonlight as she turned to face him. "I can read the electrical patterns in your neural network. It's not intentional. It simply happens when I'm in close proximity to sentient beings. As for who hunts me..." She paused, looking up at the stars visible through the canopy. "My own people. The Vel 3 Empire considers me a dangerous anomaly." Before Jake could respond, the forest around them erupted in light. 3 sleek vessels descended from the sky, their searchlights turning night into day. A voice boomed through external speakers, speaking in a language that sounded like music mixed with static. Zara's face went pale as she grabbed Jake's arm. "They've found me," she whispered. "You need to leave. Now. If they discover you've had contact with me, they'll consider you contaminated." Jake looked at the approaching ships, then back at Zara. His military training screamed at him to find cover, to call for backup, to follow proper protocol. Instead, he took her hand and began running deeper into the forest. "I've never been good at following orders that don't make sense," he said. "And abandoning someone who needs help definitely falls into that category." As they ran, Jake noticed that Zara's luminescent skin was growing brighter, and the forest itself seemed to be responding to her presence. Trees bent their branches to provide cover, and the underbrush parted to create clearer paths. It was as if nature itself was helping them escape. "This is impossible," Jake muttered, ducking under a low-hanging branch that had definitely not been there moments before. "Plants don't just move to help people." "They're not helping people," Zara said, her voice carrying a mix of wonder and fear. "They're helping me. I don't understand it either, but ever since I was ... changed, living things respond to my presence. It's why the Empire fears me." They reached a clearing where an old human research station stood abandoned. Jake's scanner indicated it had been empty for years, but the moment Zara stepped inside, the building's systems came online. Lights flickered on, the air purification system hummed to life, and the communication equipment began broadcasting what sounded like a welcoming signal. "Changed how?" Jake asked, watching in amazement as the facility transformed from a cold, dead structure into a warm, living space. Zara sank into a chair, her luminescence dimming slightly as exhaustion caught up with her. "I was a normal Vel 3 once, a xenobiologist studying primitive worlds. Then I encountered something during a survey mission, an ancient artifact that was definitely not created by any known species. When I touched it, it ... integrated with me, changed me at the cellular level." She held up her hand, and Jake watched as patterns of light flowed beneath her skin like liquid starlight. "The artifact didn't just change my biology. It connected me to something larger. I can feel the life force of entire ecosystems, influence technology that I've never seen before, and worst of all, I can sense the emotions and thoughts of other beings." Jake processed this information while watching the research station systems optimize themselves around Zara's presence. "So you're saying you're some kind of living interface between technology and organic life?" "That's a remarkably accurate assessment," Zara said, looking at him with renewed interest. "Most beings either fear me or want to use me. But you ... you're trying to understand me." Outside, The searchlights of the Vel-3 ships swept across the forest, growing closer to their position. Jake knew they had minutes before being discovered, but instead of panic, he felt a strange sense of calm. There was something about Zara's presence that made him think more clearly, react more quickly. "Those ships," he said, "they're not just looking for you. They're scanning for something specific." Zara nodded grimly. "The artifact's energy signature. It's part of me now, but it still broadcasts on frequencies that Empire technology can detect. They'll find us soon." Jake stood and began checking the research station's equipment. "Then we need to level the playing field. You said you can influence technology you've never seen before. What about human technology? Can you make it work better?" As if in answer to his question, Jake's scanner suddenly began displaying tactical information about the approaching ships, their weak points, weapon configurations, and crew complements. Information it definitely should not have been able to detect. "It seems I can," Zara said, her eyes widening. "But Jake, you don't understand what you're getting involved in. If the Empire discovers that humans can work with my abilities, they'll consider your entire species a threat." Jake smiled, the expression carrying all the determination that had made him a decorated officer. "Then I guess we better make sure they don't get the chance to report back." The battle for understanding, the abandoned research station, had become a fortress of improvised technology and desperate hope. Jake watched through the reinforced windows as the Vel-3 ships established a perimeter around the facility there. Alien designs both beautiful and terrifying in the moonlight. Each vessel was roughly the size of a human frigate, their hulls covered in the same organic curves he'd seen on Zara's crashed ship. "They're not firing," Jake observed, his enhanced scanner providing tactical readouts that should have been impossible. "Why aren't they just blasting us out of here?" Zara's luminescent skin pulsed with anxiety as she interfaced with the station systems. "Because they need me alive. The artifact that changed me. It's not just some random piece of ancient technology. It's a key to something much larger. Something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy." Through the station's restored communication array, a voice crackled to life. The universal translator, somehow optimized by Zara's presence, rendered the alien words into perfect English. "Anomaly designated Zara 7. You will surrender immediately. Your contamination of primitive species cannot be tolerated." Jake keyed the microphone, his military training taking over. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Force. You're in violation of colonial space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The response came back with what sounded like alien laughter. "Primitive human, you do not comprehend. The forces you interfere with. The anomaly has infected you with her influence. You are no longer truly human." "Infected?" Jake looked at Zara, who had gone very still. "What are they talking about?" "The artifact doesn't just change the person who touches it," Zara said quietly. "It creates a field of influence that affects other beings. The longer you're near me, the more you single quotes enhanced. I should have warned you, but I was afraid you'd leave." Jake felt a moment of shock, then realized he didn't care. His mind was clearer than it had ever been, his reflexes sharper, his ability to process information dramatically improved. "Enhanced how? Your neural pathways are being optimized. Your cellular structure is becoming more efficient. You're developing abilities similar to mine, though probably not as pronounced." Zara's eyes met his, filled with guilt and hope. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to change you without your consent." Before Jake could respond, the station's sensors detected movement. The Vel-3 ships were deploying troops, tall, graceful beings in flowing armor that seemed to shift between solid and liquid states. Their weapons pulsed with the same energy that powered their ships. "How many?" Jake asked, his enhanced perception already calculating tactical possibilities. 36 soldiers, plus support personnel, Zara replied, her connection to the station systems providing precise intelligence. They're equipped with neural disruptors designed to incapacitate beings like me. But Jake, they won't work on you the same way. The artifact's influence has made you something new. Jake felt a surge of fierce protectiveness that surprised him with its intensity. Good, because I'm not letting them take you. As the Veil 3 forces approached, Jake discovered that his enhanced abilities extended far beyond improved reflexes. He could feel the electromagnetic signatures of their weapons, predict their movement patterns, and most remarkably, he could sense their intentions through some kind of empathic connection. They're afraid, he realized, not of you specifically, but of what you represent. The artifact isn't just changing individuals, it's evolution itself. And they're terrified that their empire can't control it. The first wave of soldiers reached the station's perimeter, and Jake watched through the sensors as they moved with inhuman grace. But something was wrong with their coordination. They kept pausing, looking around as if confused. The forest is fighting them, Zara whispered in amazement. The trees are shifting to block their paths, and the local wildlife is defending us. Jake saw it too. The entire ecosystem around the station had become active, with plants growing to obstruct the attackers and small animals darting between their feet. It was as if the forest itself recognized Zara as something to be protected. This is what they're really afraid of, Jake said, understanding flooding through him. Not just that you can influence technology, but that you can awaken the life force in everything around you. You're not just bridging the gap between organic and artificial, you're proving that the distinction never really existed. The station's communication array crackled again. Final warning, anomaly. Surrender now, or we will be forced to use lethal methods. Jake looked at Zara, seeing the fear in her eyes, but also the determination. What do you want to do? I want to live, she said simply. I want to understand what I've become and use it to help others rather than destroy them. But I can't do that if they take me back to the Empire. Then we fight, Jake said, his enhanced mind already formulating strategies that would have been impossible for a normal human to conceive. But not the way they expect us to. As the Veil 3 soldiers began their assault on the station, Jake felt the artifact's influence flowing through him like liquid fire. He wasn't just fighting for Zara anymore. He was fighting for the future of evolution itself, for the right of all beings to choose their own destiny rather than be limited by the fears of those who sought to control them. The battle for the research station was about to become something far more significant than either side had anticipated. The power of connection. The assault began with a sound like breaking glass mixed with distant thunder. Jake watched through the station's sensors as the Veil 3 soldiers deployed weapons that seemed to bend reality around them. Energy bolts that curved through the air, seeking targets behind cover. Devices that made solid walls temporarily permeable. Technology that operated on principles human science hadn't even theorized. They're not trying to kill us, Zara observed, her connection to the station systems providing real-time tactical analysis. Those weapons are designed to incapacitate and capture. They still need me alive. Jake felt his enhanced perception, analyzing the attack patterns, finding weaknesses that shouldn't have been visible. But they're underestimating what we've become. Look at their formation. They're assuming we'll behave like separate individuals rather than a connected system. As if to prove his point, Jake found himself moving in perfect synchronization with Zara's actions. When she redirected power to the station's shields, he instinctively knew to reroute the backup systems. When he activated the defensive turrets, she was already calculating optimal firing solutions. They weren't just working together. They were functioning as a single, hybrid consciousness. The first wave of soldiers reached the station's outer defenses, and Jake activated systems that shouldn't have existed. The research facility's basic security setup had been transformed into something far more sophisticated. Walls that could become transparent or solid at will. Gravity fields that could be manipulated to create defensive barriers. Even the air itself seemed to respond to their commands. "This is impossible," Jake muttered, watching as the environmental controls created localized weather patterns inside the building. "These systems don't have this capability." "They do now," Zara said, her skin blazing with bioluminescent patterns. That matched the energy flowing through the station's circuits. The artifact doesn't just enhance existing abilities, it reveals potentials that were always there. This facility was built by humans who understood more than they realized. Outside, the Veil-3 forces had regrouped, their tactics adapting to the unexpected resistance. Through the communication array, their commander's voice carried a note of genuine surprise. "The primitive species displays capabilities beyond our projections. Requesting permission to escalate to lethal force." "Permission denied," came the reply from orbit. "The anomaly must be recovered intact. The artifact's influence is spreading faster than anticipated." Jake felt a moment of revelation. They're not just afraid of what you might do. They're afraid of what you're already doing. The changes aren't limited to individuals you touch directly. They're spreading through some kind of field effect. Zara nodded, her expression mixing wonder with concern. "I can feel it too. The enhancement isn't just affecting you. It's touching every living thing within a growing radius. The forest, the local wildlife, even the microbial life in the soil. Everything is becoming more connected, more aware." As the battle intensified, Jake discovered abilities he never could have imagined. He could sense the emotional states of the attacking soldiers, feel their confusion and growing fear. More remarkably, he could influence their technology through some kind of electromagnetic field generated by his enhanced neural activity. Enemy weapons misfired, their armor systems glitched, and their coordination began to break down. "You're doing that," Zara said, watching in amazement as Jake's influence spread to the attacking forces. "You're not just defending against their technology, you're converting it to our cause." The tide of battle began to turn as Jake's abilities grew stronger. Captured Veil-3 soldiers found their weapons refusing to fire, their armor systems providing protective barriers for the defenders instead of the attackers. Even their communication equipment began broadcasting messages of doubt and confusion rather than tactical information. Anew dawned the Veil-3 ships settled into the forest, clearing with a grace that spoke of centuries of advanced technology. Jake watched through the station's sensors as the alien vessels nestled among the trees like sleeping giants. They're organic. Hulls already beginning to resonate with the enhanced ecosystem around them. The forest itself seemed to welcome them, branches reaching out to provide natural camouflage and support. "They're not here to capture me anymore," Zara said, her voice filled with wonder as she monitored the alien communication channels. "They're here to understand." Jake felt the truth of her words through their shared consciousness. The Veil-3 commander's emotional state had shifted from determination and fear to curiosity and hope. The enhancement field that surrounded them wasn't just changing the local environment. It was transforming the aliens' perception of what evolution could mean. The first group of Veil-3 to emerge from their ships moved with obvious caution. But Jake could sense their underlying excitement. They were scientists and philosophers rather than soldiers. Beings who had spent their lives studying the nature of consciousness and existence. To them, the artifact's influence represented not a threat, but the answer to questions they'd been asking for millennia. "We request permission to approach," came the translated message from their leader, a tall being whose armor had shifted from military gray to colors that matched the forest around them. "The anomaly you protect may hold the key to our species." Next evolutionary step. Jake exchanged glances with Zara, their enhanced connection allowing them to share complex thoughts and emotions instantaneously. They both understood that this moment would determine not just their own fate, but the future relationship between their species. "Permission granted," Jake replied through the communication array. "But you approach as guests, not conquerors. The choice to evolve belongs to the individual, not the empire." As the Veil 3 delegation approached the research station, Jake noticed how the enhancement field affected them. Their movements became more fluid, their technology more responsive. Most remarkably, their emotional barriers began to dissolve, allowing Jake and Zara to sense their true intentions. The lead scientist, who identified herself as Thyla 9, removed her helmet as she entered the station. Her features were more delicate than Jake had expected, with large eyes that shifted between colors like Zara's, but without the luminescent quality. "You are the human who has bonded with the artifact's influence," she said, her voice carrying harmonics of genuine respect. "Our projections indicated this was impossible." "Maybe your projections were based on incorrect assumptions," Jake replied, feeling his enhanced abilities allowing him to communicate on multiple levels simultaneously. "Evolution doesn't follow the rules we think it should." Thyla 9's attention turned to Zara, and Jake felt a complex mix of emotions from the alien scientist, professional fascination, personal regret, and something that might have been maternal protectiveness. "Child of two worlds," she said softly. "We thought we were protecting our people from contamination. We did not realize we were preventing them from growing." Over the next several hours, Jake watched as the research station became a hub of unprecedented scientific collaboration. The Veil 3 brought equipment that interfaced seamlessly with the enhanced human technology, creating hybrid systems that neither species could have developed alone. More importantly, they brought centuries of experience with consciousness enhancement, an evolutionary adaptation. "The artifact isn't unique," Thyla 9 explained as they gathered around a holographic display showing the galaxy's spiral arms. "Our ancestors encountered dozens of similar devices scattered across the galaxy. Each one represents a different approach to bridging the gap between organic and artificial intelligence." Jake studied the display, his enhanced perception revealing patterns that told a story spanning millions of years. Someone was seeding the galaxy with these artifacts. But why? "Because consciousness is not meant to be limited by biology," Zara said, her understanding growing as she interfaced with the combined knowledge of both species. "The artifacts aren't weapons or tools, they're invitations, opportunities for any species that finds them to choose their own evolutionary path." As the day progressed, Jake felt the enhancement field continuing to expand. The forest around them was becoming something unprecedented, an ecosystem where the boundaries between natural and artificial, organic and technological, individual and collective consciousness were dissolving. Small animals displayed problem-solving abilities that shouldn't have been possible. Plants grew in patterns that suggested intentional design rather than random growth. "It's beautiful," Thyla 9 said, watching through the station's sensors as the transformation continued. "And terrifying. If this spreads unchecked, it will change everything we think we know about the nature of existence." "Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen," Jake replied, taking Zara's hand and feeling their combined consciousness expand even further. "Maybe the universe has been waiting for us to stop seeing ourselves as separate species, competing for resources, and start seeing ourselves as part of something larger." As the sun set over the forest, Jake realized that they stood at the threshold of a new age. The artifact's influence had created more than just enhanced individuals. It had sparked the beginning of a galactic consciousness that could transcend the limitations of any single species. The question now wasn't whether humanity and the Velthri could coexist, but whether they were ready to help guide this transformation for the benefit of all conscious beings. The emergency beacon that had brought him to this forest had been more than a distress call. It had been an invitation to participate in the next phase of galactic evolution. And as Jake felt his consciousness expanding to encompass not just Zara and the local ecosystem, but the growing network of enhanced beings across multiple worlds, he realized that the best was yet to come. The universe was finally ready to grow up.